However, if I married this vintage billionaire man, he is already in his 80s, if I marry him now, it is just to be counted a few years before he die, and I'm able to inherit the whole thing once he is long past, Lerato said to herself as she sipped her smoothie. Lounging at the couch, Lerato continually believed she become destined for a life of luxurious but no longer via difficult work or ability. No, not her. She believed the key to wealth. Become a rich guy, a person who might bring her like an egg, pay her payments, get dressed her in clothes her labels, and fly her to unusual places. The idea of studying a trade or obtaining a skill made her cringe. Why must I stress myself? She would regularly say, there are men who've been working for many years simply so I'm able to enjoy it. Truly is their activity of their small but busy flat in Johannesburg. Lerato's younger sister Nali attempted over and over to get her to see cause 82 years Mo Ray, youthful but a long way greater responsible, became gaining knowledge of hairdressing and labored element time at a salon. She cleaned the house, bought groceries along with her small earnings, and frequently cooked their food. Lerato by no means lifted a finger. Nettie stated one nighttime stirring a pot of pap. Depending on men like this could spoil you. Lerato rolled her eyes dramatically mendacity across the couch along with her smartphone in hand, scrolling via Instagram. Why are you always so dramatic now, girl? Observe this, she stated, turning her cell phone around to reveal a photo of a female she followed. The girl wore a Gucci dress and posed in front of a luxurious car. Do you believe you studied? She's suffering. No, guys are meant to take care of women. Nerdy sighed, you don't know her story. Lerato, maybe she works, perhaps she has an enterprise. Hi, please. Lerato scoffed, stop preaching, you sound like mama, just say you are jealous. Nettie said, not anything greater. She had attempted to many instances. Lerato's first-rate pal Thandi became similar to her, only worse if Lerato turned into seeking out encouragement. Thandi continually had it prepared. Lady, I met a man final night time. He drives a Range Rover, I swear, Thee stated, chewing gum loudly as they walked through Santon City Mall. He took me to a lounge in Rosebank. I informed him I have a beautiful friend who needs spoiling. To Lerato's eyes, you are the satisfactory Thandi who says we need to suffer. The two laughed and strutted into a boutique attempting on high-priced garments they could not afford. They did not buy something, however. They took pics for social media. Later that week they went clubbing, their regular Friday ritual, hair laid, nails done, brief dresses and loud perfume. They were not there to bop, they have been there to hunt. At the VIP front room of the membership, they caught the eye of a group of older guys. These men were not the same old, younger, flashy sorts. They have been mature, reserved, and in reality wealthy. Their graying hair and steeply priced watches spoke volumes. Considered one of them tall, darkish, and in reality in his 80s. Stored glancing at their table. Subsequently, he stood up and walked over with a calm but confident air. Appropriate evening, ladies, he said, his voice deep but gentle. Can also I join you? Thea gave him a cold glance and regarded away. Lerato smiled civilly but nudged Thandi underneath the table. Hi, Lerato stated sweetly, batting her lashes. Of path, have a seat. The person sat down slowly, putting his glass of whiskey at the desk. I couldn't help, however, note you stunning girls. My call is Mr. Duma. Fee became bored to death, checking her cell phone and texting furiously. Lerato leaned closer to the man, still smiling nicely. It's adorable to meet you, Mr. Duma. I'm Lerato, and that is my pleasant friend Thandi. Mr. Duma nodded respectfully. Adorable names. You girls take me back to the fact of my daughters. Thandi rolled her eyes slightly. Lerato saw it and kicked her gently under the table once more. Thandi is simply shy, Lerato stated quickly. She's extra of a mystery, you realize. Mr. the Duma chuckled. Nothing wrong with being reserved. After a couple of minutes, the man leaned slightly toward Thandi. Would you mind if I were given your variety? I might like to take you out to dinner. Thandi nearly choked on her drink. I do not assume so, sir. I mean you're older, Thandi, Lerato hissed under her breath, attempting now not to appearance irritated. Mr. Duma smiled lightly and stood up. No issues, younger female. It turned into worth asking. Have a brilliant evening. As he walked away, Lerato grabbed Than's arm. Are you mad? It's our jackpot. Thandi wrinkled her nose. Lerato, the man is antique. He might be your grandfather. And that's precisely the point, Lerato whispered fiercely. Do you observed he's going to be dragging you round? He just wishes organization, and he's rich. Thandi examined his footwear. Those were Italian leather-based. Thandi hesitated, but he is vintage and rich. And do you already know what takes place with old wealthy men? They write you into their will, Lerato stated. Why, deed, he's going to provide you money, cars, maybe even a residence. You could nonetheless date whoever you want on the Facet Thandi giggled. You're insane. No, I'm smart, Lerato replied, already typing something on her telephone. I'm giving him your quantity. What, Lerato? Loosen up, I'll easy it over. You will thank me while you're riding a Porsche. Thandi stared at her. Great pal, unsure whether to be indignant or amused. You're virtually serious. I am. We do not get gifts like this. Ordinary. Forestall questioning along with your feelings. Think along with your bank account. Lerato stood up optimistically, smoothing her tight get dressed and walking towards Merduma's desk. A couple of minutes later, she back with a positive grin. He's waiting for your call the next day, she whispered. Thandi blanketed her face with her arms. Yo, Lerato laughed, sipping her cocktail. This is it, babes. We've been watching for our big fish, and we just caught a shark. Lerato had in no way been the affected person type, specifically when there has been cash involved ever. In view that nighttime on the club, her mind kept drifting lower back to the older man, Mr. Humor. She couldn't get over how calm he changed into how hopefully he spoke, and most importantly how much wealth he seemed to exude from head to toe one afternoon. She sat at her arrogance table brushing her long braids. Even as scrolling through WhatsApp, she glanced at Thandi's repute, hoping to look a clue, maybe a dinner date, a brand new handbag, or a fancy eating place. However, there was nothing. Later that day, she invited Thandi over, so Lerato started out. As she passed her pal a glass of wine. You and that sugar grandpa, are you in the end talking? Thandi rolled her eyes. Lerato, I instructed you. I am no longer fascinated. That guy has been calling me, sure, but I just ignored. He even left me a voicemail. He's still calling. Lerato sipped slowly, pretending to be informal. You haven't even returned one call now? Not even one, Thee said proudly. I informed you already. He is too antique. I don't care how rich he is, I simply cannot pressure at his call. Is what become it once more? Jaff Duma or something? Lerato's hand iced over midair. Jaff Duma, she repeated slowly, like the call unlocked something in her mind. Yeah. Why? Thandi laughed. You're acting like you have heard of him earlier than hi. Nothing, Lerato said, waving it off. I simply, the name sounds acquainted. But her heart became racing. She plastered a fox smile on her face and changed the topic. Inside her mind had been already spinning. Where have I heard that name before? That night time. As soon as Thandi left, Lerato grabbed her smartphone. She typed Jaff Duma into Google and held her breath. Within seconds, search outcomes flooded her display. Jaff Duma, South African mining wealthy person, internet really worth our 5 to billion pics of the old man popped up. The equal face now with a suit and tie at business conferences and charity events. Her jaw dropped. Yo, she whispered, eyes wide, this guy is a complete billionaire. She leaned back on her mattress and stared on the ceiling, already making plans, and Thandi just left him, striking her. This is my guy now. The following day, she paid Thea an unannounced visit. She brought her normal attraction, wine, meat pies, and gossip. Thand laughed as they stuck up watching TV and scrolling through TikTok. Allow me, simply go use the restroom quick, Thea said, getting up and leaving her cell phone on the sofa. Lerato's eyes zoomed in at the device like a hawk. She waited till she heard the restroom door close. Then rapidly she picked up the phone and opened the decision log. Mr. Duma's wide variety became clean to find he had referred to as simply the day earlier. Then Lerato fast memorized the digits and typed them into her very own phone. As soon as Thandi came returned, she acted like not anything came about that night time. By myself in her bedroom, Lerato sat up in mattress, her heart pounding. She stared on the number for even as earlier, then eventually pressing call. Hello. Got here, the deep acquainted voice. Hello, proper evening, is that this Jaff Duma? She said in her sweetest voice. Yes, speak. Who is this? It's Lerato. We met the other night time on the membership. I used to be with Thandi. There was a pause. Oh, I consider you Fee's pal proper. Yes, Lerato giggled softly. I hope you don't mind me achieving out. I felt like I must were the only speaking to you that night time. I've thought approximately it, seeing that Jafta chuckled. This is sudden, but now not unwelcome. You are a bold one. I simply agree with in chasing what I need, she said coyly. I like that he spoke back. Would you like to have dinner with me day after today night time? I might like to. From that second her lifestyles commenced to change. Jafta became a person of his phrase and his wallet. After simply weeks of dating, he amazed her with a present-day BMW parked outdoor her flat. What now? Girl shouted while she saw it. Lerato. Whose car is this? It's mine, Lerato said smugly. My man offered it. The lady stood there greatly surprised. Your man, the one from the membership, that old guy, do not disrespect him, Lerato stated defensively. He's a billionaire, he looks after me, and he is a gentleman. Nettie shook her head. You are genuinely long past, Lerato, but I'm hoping you recognize what you are doing. Lerato didn't care. She'd become too busy playing spa treatments, new wigs, high-priced baggage, and motel getaways. Jafta gave her an allowance that made her forget about every fear she'd ever had. She even began dressing more stylish, buying and selling her revealing membership outfits for fashionable clothes and heels. However, she concealed the whole lot from Thandi. Whenever they met up, she made certain no longer to wear something too flashy. She'd tell small lies. This dress, oh, I were given it on sale. Automobile, no, it is only a condominium. From work, she failed to need to proportion her jackpot no longer. This time, have you heard from that Jaft man once more? Thandi asked. Sooner or later, as they sat in a restaurant. Lerato shook her head casually. Nah, maybe he gave up. Vintage guys don't have time for video games. Thandi laughed. Top, he wasn't my kind. Besides, Lerato smiled to herself, he is mine now. Lerato's new existence changed into like something out of a magazine. Designer garments lined her closet. Perfumes with French names stood smartly on her cloth cabinet, and the keys to her BMW rested casually on her marble kitchen counter. Every morning, she'd sip imported espresso while scrolling via Instagram, her feed now full of luxury spa visits, yacht trips in Cape City, and excessive stop brunches at Santon restaurants. But while her way of life flourished, her friendships withered. Thandi noticed the alternate at once. At the beginning, she brushed it off. Maybe she's just busy, she muttered to herself after sending every other message that went unanswered. Seen no response, she attempted calling voicemail again and again. Lerato, she shouted one Saturday nighttime status. Sue store the membership in which they typically partied. You said you have been coming. However, Lerato by no means showed up. The truth became easy. Lerato no longer wanted Thandi now that she had Mr. Duma, billionaire sponsor, quickly to be husband. She had no reason to share whatever in particular, not the source of her wealth. One breezy evening, as she sat beside Jacka at the balcony of his Santon penthouse, he all of a sudden grew to become to her. I have something to ask you, he said gently. Larda's coronary heart skipped. Okay. He pulled a small velvet container from his jacket and opened it. Inside changed into a big diamond ring that glinted below the metropolis lighty Eng fixtures. Lotto, could you marry me? She gasped, no longer out of shock, but excitement. This is it, she idea the closing jackpot. Yes, she beamed, throwing her palms around him. Yes, yeah, 1,000 times yes, but deep inner, she wasn't considering love. He's in his 80s, honestly, he doesn't have long ones. He's gone, the whole lot could be mine. The wedding plan started right away. Jaft failed to want a big crowd, simply something fashionable. Lerato didn't care as long as the papers have been signed and he or she have become Mrs. Mer. Nothing else mattered. She stored the whole thing quiet. No Instagram posts, no tweets, no longer even a WhatsApp fame. Handiest a handful of own family and a hired wedding ceremony planner. Knew Thandi didn't, however. Secrets and techniques have a way of crawling into the mild. One afternoon, Thandi ran into a mutual buddy, Mbali, at a salon. Hi babe, did you pay attention? Mbali stated, as she flipped via a mag. Pay attention what? Thandi asked. Lerato's getting married. Oh. Thandi blinked. What? Mbali nodded with excitement. And bet who the groom is? That vintage man from the club, the only that became calling you Mr. Duma. Thandi's face dropped. What are you saying? Molly persisted without noticing the exchange in Thandi's expression. I even noticed her trying on a robe. Ultimate week designer dress, fancy wedding planner, the entirety. Yo babe, Lordo's moving up. Than stood frozen, her hand tightened round her bag. She stole him, she muttered beneath her breath. Later that night, Thandi stormed into Lato's rental. Without knocking, she flung the door open and observed Lato lounging on her couch, sipping juice and scrolling via her smartphone. Wow, Thandi said coldly, so this is the new you, huh? Lordo looked up slowly. Thandi, what are you doing right here? You tell me, Thandi snapped. You forget about my messages, my calls. Stop striking out with him. And now I find out from Mbali of absolutely everyone which you're marrying. Yaft Duma. NATO positioned her glass down. You are overreacting. Thandi shouted. That guy become calling me Lerato, and also you knew you're the one who gave him my variety and you did not need him. Lerato yelled again. You actually said he became to vintage. Thandi, you weren't interested. That doesn't provide you with the proper to go behind my return. Thandi shouted. You stole him. Lordo stood up. I did not steal whatever. You rejected him. I just took an opportunity. You are a snake. Thun spat, a egocentric, grasping snake. You let me look like a fool at the same time as you were playing residence with him. Oh please. Lotto rolled her eyes. You've been sour when you consider that day one. Simply admit it. You are jealous. Ted laughed bitterly of what being a glorified nursemaid to an 80-year antique man while waiting for him to die. Lerato's face grew to become pink. Watch your mouth. No, you watch yours. Thandi shouted. You're planning a marriage and hiding it from the only person who's constantly had your again. How do you even sleep at night? I sleep thoroughly in my king-sized bed in Santon. The snapped Whilst you are still begging for Uber money, Dandy's hand twitched. You honestly think money makes you better than everybody? How it does. After I don't ought to beg or proportionate with a person who might have wasted it. You are disgusting, Thandi said, tears brimming in her eyes. We were presupposed to be sisters and sisters. Do not sabotage every difference. Bag. Lerato shot lower back. You snoozed. I scored. You lied to me. You left the door open. I just walked in. For a second, silence hung thick in the room. Then Thandi lunged forward. Thandi, Lissa shouted as she stumbled back. The two women grabbed at each other's hair, knocking over a vase. Screams stuffed the rental as they shoved, scratched, and cursed. You egocentric witch. Sandy screamed. You bitter cow. Lerato yelled. Returned. They crashed into the espresso table, knocking drinks over the rug. After a couple of minutes, respiratory heavily and makeup smeared, they subsequently separated. I in no way need to see your face once more. Thandi hissed. Properly. Lerato screamed. Live far away from me. Negative. Humans carry terrible good fortune. Thandi stormed out, slamming the door at the back of her. Lerato stood in the middle of her now trashed living room. Her coronary heart changed into pounding. She walked over to the mirror, gazing her mirrored image, a wild-haired lady in a silk robe, diamond jewelry glittering underneath the mild. I am this close, she whispered, wiping a tear from her cheek. Not anything will stop me now. The primary year of marriage became the whole lot. Lerato had dreamed of luxurious have become her reality. She flew first class to Dubai, Paris, Seychelles, each vicinity she had as soon as handiest visible on her Pinterest imaginative and prescient board. Her Instagram feed now glittered with sundown dinners, spa retreats, dressmaker purses, and cryptic captions like gentle existence chose me or Mrs. Duma living the dream. Her buddies envied her, strangers idolized her, and whenever she became the key to her luxurious SUV, she smiled, knowing she had secured the bag. If Duma, even though frail in age, became a doting husband, he gave her the entirety she requested for, and more: diamonds, coins, stocks in a few organizations, even in property in Toria. Lerato now not noticed him as simply an antique guy. He was her golden price ticket. When she determined out she become pregnant, Jaft wept like a baby. A son, he said, holding her hand tightly during the test. A blessing at my vintage age. Lerato too was satisfied. She had it all: the ring, the toddler, the cash, the mansion. She might sit within the nursery and smile on the tiny garments, thinking he is our inheritor. The whole thing Yafta owns will now bypass to him and subsequently to me. However, fate had its very own plans on Jaft's 85th birthday, all through a lavish garden birthday party with string quartets and imported champagne. He collapsed beside the cake table. Baba, a person screamed. Lerato rushed forward, heart pounding. Cameras flashed, guests gasped, and panic erupted. An ambulance become called, and inside Min's Yafta Chang Ed into wheeled out of the mansion. Subconscious, the hospital changed into bloodless and sterile. Jafta lay on the bed with wires hooked to his chest and oxygen tubes in his nostril. The medical doctors ran checks, but stated nothing alarming. Age fatigue they referred to as it, possibly stress. However, he wasn't getting higher by the 1/3 day. He ought to barely communicate via the 4th. He stopped eating. The 5th day changed into the worst. A nurse got here and Anne gently stated, he's requesting you. Lerato walked into the room slowly. She became dressed in clothier loungewear, face completely beat, even within the sanatorium. Child, she whispered, taking his frail hand. Yafta grew to become to her slowly, eyes worn out, however heavy with emotion. I want to tell you something, Lerato, he said, voice raspy. Do not communicate an excessive amount of okay, you may get better. No, he cut her off. Pay attention. She leaned closer, her brows knitting. There may be something you want to realize before it is to pass. Do he paused, collecting power, then endured 6 years in the past. I lost the entirety. My companies crashed. I used to be in debt. My family left me. I had not anything. Lerato blinked. But you're one of the richest guys within the United States of America. No longer anymore, he stated weakly. Not truly, no longer. For lengthy, she pulled her hand back slowly. What are you speaking about? I did something desperate, something dark. He coughed. What did you do? She requested, her voice low. I went to a Sangoma, a powerful one. I begged for wealth. He supplied me a deal, cash beyond my dreams. However, with a fee. Lerato's heart started racing. What cost? He looked at her with watery eyes. 5 years. This is all I used to be given. 5 years of limitless wealth. After that I die, and once I die the entirety disappears. The vehicles, the houses, the financial institution, bills, the entirety. Lerato stared at him, speechless. No, she whispered, shaking her head. I did not think I might live this long. Ya persevered. However, when I met you I desired to experience love again, even though it became borrowed time. She took a step back in her arms, trembling. You're lying. I'm sorry. You are telling me, she hissed, voice rising, that when you died there's not anything? Yafta nodded, slowly, tears rolling down the facet of his face. All this time, she gasped, all this time. I concept I used to be securing my future, I notion I used to be setting up my son, and now you are telling me there's no inheritance, no belongings, no empire. I desired to tell you sooner, he stated, however you looked so happy I failed to need to ruin it. You're selfish, she snapped. You're evil, I was determined. You lied to me, she screamed. I gave you my frame, I gave you an infant, I gave up my adolescence, wondering I was locking down an entire life of wealth. I'm sorry, you are no longer sorry, she spat, grabbing her handbag. You're simply death, and frightened of leaving your secret behind. She grew to become on her heel and stormed out of the room. Lotto, please. But she didn't prevent. Nurses glanced as she stomped via the hall, her heels clicking loudly tore the tiles. Her respiratory changed into shallow, her hands shaking. While she reached the clinic automobile parking space, she leaned towards her SUV and let out a scream. This will be happening, she muttered over and over. She notioned she had received the sport, however, she become simply another porn. Lotto became midway through a bitter cup of wine when the call got here. Mrs. Dumar, I'm sorry. Your husband didn't make it. She froze. The glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the tiled floor. Her coronary heart pounded so loudly she conceived it might burst. He became long gone just like that. However, even through the surprise, a crooked idea snuck in. Now it starts off the wealth, the inheritance. Within minutes, she was in her car, using inconsistently through the busy streets of Johannesburg. She did not shed a tear. Her thoughts become too busy racing with plans, financial institution debts to test, documents to comfy lawyers to fulfill. However, by the point she arrived on the medical institution, the frame had already been moved to the morgue. The nurses gave her smooth condolences. Lerato barely heard them. Her phone turned into already in her arms. She dialed the first herbalist she knew from years in the past, a vintage guy named Mandler, who once claimed he may want to manipulate spiritual tides. Axelises cease, he said after she explained. If the wealth became from a ritual the second he died, it is gone spiritually. You cannot hold what is not yours. She hung up on him. She known as others. One requested her for R50 upfront before he ought to try the opposite. Ghosted her after hearing the call. Jaft Duma panic set in through. The next day she was at her attorney's workplace, looking to promote off of Jaft's homes in Santon. The record nonetheless bore Jaft's call. However, the attorney, greedy and hungry for his reduced, confident her it might be easy deal she signed quick. Desperation had blinded her. 3 days later, she walked into the financial institution to coins the test. Whilst she exceeded it to the teller, the woman frowned. This account would not exist anymore. What do you imply? Lerato barked. I have it. Take a look at its fake mother. Lato's throat closed up. That is not viable. I simply, do you want to talk to our fraud branch? She stumbled out of the financial institution, legs weak. She did not even understand who had scammed her, the client, the legal professional, both, as she drove to considered one of Jaff's warehouse companies. Her smartphone buzzed nonstop. Lenders organization, staff, authorities, our bodies, all worrying answers. That afternoon she arrived on the warehouse, best to locate it in flames. Thick black smoke coiled into the sky. As firefighters struggled to govern the inferno, she screamed, who did this? A protect turned to her with a hollow look. We do not know, we just saw the flames. Some other loss. She stood there for hours shaking, watching the entirety flip to ash. Her phone kept ringing. She left out it subsequently. She made one closing resolution: the gold and diamond sets, they must nevertheless be inside the residence by the time she pulled into her mansion's driveway in Rosebank. The sun had already begun to set. The gates were huge, open. Her heart skipped a beat. She ran interior. Hey Bella, silence. She stepped into the living room and screamed. The region had been ransacked, drawers overturned, safes broken open, the photographs, the artifacts, the jewelry case gone. No, she wailed, falling to her knees. She did not pay attention. The knock at the door at the beginning, then it grew louder and loud. When she opened it, 3 law enforcement officials stood out of doors. Mrs. Duma, leave out, she stated breathlessly. We are here about the robbery. Who did it? She requested, eyes wide. No. The officer sighed. But there's greater. We were contacted by the municipality. The land this reside and sits on it is below dispute. Authorities assets. It has been declared illegal due to the fact that 2002 we need to trouble a word. What a demolition order. You will be required to vacate inside 7 days. Lerato's jaw dropped. She leaned in opposition to the door, body attempting not to crumble. You humans are mad. This is my house now. Not anymore, one officer stated gently. We're sorry, ma'am. They surpassed her the papers and walked away. That night she sat inside the center of the now empty mansion. No electricity, no assist, simply her and her Infant boy crying from hunger, she had nothing left now, not even delight. 7 days surpassed like a blur while the bulldozers arrived. She failed to fight, she just packed her child's garments right into a tattered plastic bag and walked down the lengthy driveway. One final time she didn't call all of us. She had no person to name. All of the friends she used to show off to had lengthy blocked her. Even her cousins avoided her. There was handiest one man or woman she should think about, Thandi. She hadn't spoken to her since the combat in view, that she stole Jafta proper from under her nose, but now she had no desire. She arrived at Reachable's flat in Yeovil simply earlier than sunset, clutching her toddler near her chest. Her once glamorous wig turned into frizzy, her dressmaker handbag torn on the strap, and her high heels mismatched. She knocked lightly. Dandy, she stated while the door opened. Thandi stood there frozen, her mouth dropped barely. Yato. Tears sprang to Lerato's eyes. I've nowhere else to head, please. Thandi did not respond for a few seconds. Her eyes trailed down to the baby, then back to Lerato's wiped out face. Lerato, you appear to be. You have been dragged via hell. I have, she croaked. Silence stretched among them. Then Thandi slowly stepped apart. Amen. As Thandi slowly shut the door in the back of them, Lerato stood nevertheless. In the center of the small smooth flat, the place smelled of lavender and peace matters she hadn't felt in a long time. Take a seat down, Thandi said quickly, pointing to the modest gray couch. Lerato obeyed without a word. Her son's slightly 12 months antique fussed gently in her palms. She tried to hush him, bouncing him lightly on her lap whilst her own heart thudded with shame. Andy walked over with a bottle of water and located it in front of her, without a smile. Then she stood, fingers folded, watching her. Well, you pay attention, Lerato. Lerato's eyes stuffed up as her lips trembled. I've nowhere else to move, she whispered. Everything is long past. Jaft is gone, the money, the homes, even the earrings long gone. Thandi didn't balk. And you observed this is my problem? No, I want your assist. I used to be wrong, Thandi, so wrong. She slowly slid off the couch and knelt on the floor, her voice cracking. Please forgive me. Bundy's jaw clenched. Forgive you, she requested bitterly. You stole from me, you betrayed me. You think me chase reasonably priced sugar daddies while you ate caviar with Jaft, pretending you had been better than me. You ignored my messages, you blocked me once I requested questions, and now you need forgiveness. Lerato bowed her head. I recognize, I deserve every phrase. However, I'm begging you, please, for the sake of my toddler. I was blinded. I notion I used to be clever. I notion wealth became the solution. I chased a shortcut and ended up on the backside. A heavy silence fell. The best sound changed into her infant's gentle babbling, ignorant of the chaos round him. Dandy's gaze dropped to the baby. Her coronary heart softened, no longer for Liberto, but for the innocent baby now stuck in his mother's mess. She exhaled slowly and knelt beside her. Buddy, you harm me, Lerato, she stated softly, deeply. However, I won't permit this infant suffer because of your choices. Lerato seemed up, eyes wide with desire. You mean I'm able to stay? You can stay. Dandy nodded. However, hear me nicely, this isn't always a clubhouse. I don't do runs anymore. I have changed. My existence has changed. What do you imply? Lerato requested via her tears. Thandi stood and went to a small table inside the corner. A slim computer sat open, papers well arranged beside it. She tapped the keyboard, displaying her display screen. I paintings now, she said proudly. I do remote customer service for a global tech organization. I answer emails, cope with proceedings, assist customers. It is not glamorous, but it's strong. I'm able to pay my lease, feed myself, and sleep peacefully. Lerato appeared greatly surprised. You operating a 9-to-5? Sure, me. Thandi nodded firmly. Coos, I were given bored with waking up in unusual beds, bored with gambling the game for crumbs at the same time as the actual wealth builders have been out there creating costs. Lerato blinked, her voice smooth. I do not even realize in which to begin. I don't have any ability. Fee, I by no means bothered to research something, then examine now. Fee said, stepping forward. You have got a toddler now. It is no longer approximately you anymore. You watched. I started off understanding tech. If I took loose publications online, I studied at night time, even labored part-time at a call middle to get revel, and you need to be inclined to exchange. Lerato stared at her, lips parted. I want to, she subsequently stated. I am worn out. I'm uninterested in looking over my shoulder, tired of chasing illusions, tired of sporting fox smiles, even as loss of life interior and get severe. Thee's voice became calm. But company, you can live here, but you may clean, you'll help with food, and you'll sign up for online courses. No greater sugar daddies, no more golf equipment. It's time to rebuild your existence. Brick. Lerato nodded slowly. Thanks, Thandi, I promise I won't allow you to down. Dandy nodded as soon as taking walks in the direction of the kitchen. Start through bathing that infant. He smells like dried milk and strain. Lerato let loose a small laugh, the first in weeks. She held her son tighter and whispered, matters are goin'. To be specific now, I swear later that night, after Lerato had fed her son and laid him to sleep on a folded blanket beside the couch, she sat subsequent to Thandi, who was typing hastily on her computer. You absolutely appear satisfied, Lerato said quietly. I'm. Thandi responded, without searching up. Piece of thoughts is higher than champagne with anxiety. Lerato nodded thoughtfully. I used to think money become the entirety, she said, but it slipped through my hands. Like water, I had no character, no plan, simply greed. Now I'm beginning from scratch. That is the issue. Approximately shortcuts, Thandi murmured. They experience speedy at the beginning, but they constantly lead you off the road. Lerato checked out, her vintage buddy with new eyes now, not as a fellow birthday party girl, but as a girl who had grown, who had found out, and now it turned into her turn. She stood, walked over to her son, and stroked his cheek. For you, she whispered, I'll construct a new route. No greater easy roads, no greater lies.